Welcome in, everybody. This is your self-care staffing for Thursday, April 30th, 2020. I am Lou Pascal. I'm the school social worker in the Manchester City Schools in Manchester, Tennessee, coming at you today with my Jane Addams social worker shirt representing my profession. Very excited to have received that after I ordered it. Today we are going to continue our series on reading as self-care. And I hope you guys are enjoying this because I just have really had a good time putting this together and hope y'all are getting a lot out of this that can help you to have reading as a method for you in your self-care practice. So today is going to be kind of part two to what was yesterday. Yesterday was how to find longer reading materials, mostly books. Today is going to be how to find shorter reading materials, maybe some email newsletters, different types of shorter formats, because you might just want to read something shorter. You might be all about reading, but you need shorter items to do that. So, my biggest strategy on reading shorter items is to use an RSS feed reader. So RSS is real simple syndication, and I'm not tech savvy enough to be able to explain exactly what that is or how that works to you, but I can give you a general understanding. I know you've all seen the RSS symbol on websites. It's orange and it has sort of like sound waves in a little box. That's RSS. So years ago, Google had an RSS reader called Google Reader, and it was very heartbreaking when they shut it down, including for myself. But I found a new one to use, and the one that I use is called Feedly, and there is some yard work type situation going on around here. Weed eating, mowing. Hopefully y'all aren't hearing too much of that, and if you are, it's not too distracting. Maybe you're not hearing it at all, so we're going to persevere. So basically what RSS does is, if you have several websites that you like to visit every single day or every week, instead of going to each individual site one by one and finding whatever the new posts are, you take the feed of that site, the RSS feed, and you put it into a feed reader like Feedly or another option. There's more than one option. And what it does is, instead of you having to go individually to each of those sites, it brings it all to one place for you. So always they have a desktop version, and then sometimes there's an app. So Feedly has a desktop version and an app that I use on my phone. So when I go into that app, everything that I've subscribed to is right there. And so I don't have to go to however many websites that I want to know if they have new posts every single time. When there's a new post, it just comes to me. Okay? So you can use Feedly or any RSS reader. You can use it for a lot of different things. You can use it for blogs. So I'll give you an example. There is a guy named Cal Newport. He wrote a book called Deep Work, and he writes a lot about technology and how technology impacts our work and kind of his responses to technology and social media. So he has a blog. Every time he posts something new, it comes into my feed reader and I can read it. This is not really a blog, this is just kind of a news source. And you can use this for newspapers, news channels. The possibilities are so broad. One of the ones that I use it for is a site called Latest Science News. Now, with Latest Science News, they publish probably 10, 20 posts a day about different scientific studies. And I do not read every single one. I don't read even half of them. Sometimes I just see a headline out of the corner of my eye and I might hold on it to look at it later. but they'll talk about, different scientific studies, and some of them apply to the work that I do. So that's another option, latest science news. You can also use a feed reader to subscribe to something. Since we're talking about reading, I told you guys yesterday that NPR has a lot of book coverage. NPR has a specific topics section just about books. You can subscribe to just that, and every time NPR has a piece about a book, it'll come into your feed reader. Okay? A couple of other things you can do. You can subscribe to podcasts and YouTube channels using a feed reader. So podcasts, it took me a while to kind of figure out how to do it with Apple Podcasts, but there is a way to find the feed for an Apple Podcast and put it into my feed reader. So if there are podcasts I want to listen to, every time a new episode happens, it gets fed into my Feedly, and it's there for me to hear. So I'll give you an example. I am interested in history, and so the White House Historical Association has a podcast all about the White House and White House history, and it's called the 1600 Sessions. And so I'm subscribed to that, and every time 1600 Sessions has a new episode, it's there in my Feedly for me to hear. And I'm hoping to do a whole episode about cool podcasts and how podcasts can be a self-care strategy after we finish the series this week about books. So be looking for that. I'm hoping to do a segment just about podcasts. So YouTube channels, if you guys have ever heard of TED Talks, which I'm sure that I'm not telling you anything new about TED Talks, there is a YouTube channel for TED Talks. And if you like that, you can feed the YouTube feed for TED Talks into your feed reader, and then every time there's a new TED Talk, it comes into your feed, and you can decide if you want to watch it, if it's interesting to you. So a feed reader, primarily for reading, but it can give you access to, and it can be a way for you to collect all sorts of different sources for entertainment, learning, any of those things. So I love RSS, and using a feed reader, it definitely is a tactic in my self-care practice. Also, I wanted to talk today about email newsletters. I said yesterday that I am a fan of an email newsletter. So you can find email newsletters on any number of things. There's one that I subscribe to by Amber Jameson called Better Have My Money. It's about finances, and she just is very down to earth, and she's got an email newsletter, and she is doing, I guess, what some people would consider a small amount of investing, and she talks to you about financial things and investing things, and she shows you how her investments are working. And so that's just a practice for me to learn more about money and to see how she's doing what she's doing. So Amber Jameson, Better Have My Money. And another one that I subscribe to, and y'all just remember, I don't endorse every single thing that comes across every recommendation that I give you. There might be some things in there that you don't like. Take what you like, leave the rest. Another one that I subscribe to is called Girls Night In, and it is actually a self-care email newsletter, and it comes on Friday night, and it just has different things about self-care. So it's really awesome. Another email newsletter I subscribe to is, if you're interested in poetry, Garrison Keillor has the Writer's Almanac, and if you subscribe to that, you get his newsletter every single day, and it has a poem, and then he tells you all different kinds of historical facts about different writers. So that's interesting. So those are just some examples of some different shorter kinds of reading that you can be doing. Just because we're talking about reading doesn't mean that it has to be a full-length book. It doesn't have to be. So those are some different strategies for doing reading on a shorter term basis that might fit better into your life than trying to get a whole book read. So, your self-care check-in question for today. What is one topic that really intrigues me So think about this. Take some time to think about this. What is one topic that I would really like to know more about? I can tell you for myself, I am really sort of fascinated by like 60s Woodstock sort of civil rights culture. I've read several books about it, novels. I always want to be reading more about it. I don't know why I'm intrigued by that, but that's something I would like to know more about. And whenever I find something like that, I always want to try to get that on my reading list and be sure that I have read it. Some of my favorite books have come from that sort of area of interest. So, what is one topic that really intrigues me? And then once you have answered that for yourself, I challenge you to do a Google search and find some blogs to read about that topic. Okay? So, if I wanted to go with the whole, 60s civil rights, Woodstock type culture idea, I'm sure I could Google that and find some blogs about that. Probably some podcasts, some YouTube channels. There's no telling what all I could find. But that's an example for you. So, here is your quote for today. Keep people with input posted on the latest news. They need to be in the know. Pass along books, articles, and papers you think they would like to read. So this is, again, this could apply to a lot of different areas of your life, but I think about it specifically in my work. So I'm reading, a lot of the reading that I do is for just things that I enjoy, but I also do some reading, a significant amount of reading for work. And when I find something, whether it's a book or an article or some sort of paper, then I can pass that along to people that I am colleagues with in my work, and we can discuss it, or we can figure out if that is maybe the seed for a bigger idea of how we're going to move forward as we serve our students. So that was Tom Rath from StrengthsFinder 2.0. And again, this week, no songs, but I am doing books instead, children's books about reading. And today's book is called Born to Read, and it is by Judy Sierra. Born to Read by Judy Sierra. Okay. And then the video that I'm going to share with you today is a sort of a intro video about RSS readers. Okay. So that'll give you a little bit more detail about how those work. It'll be sort of an intro. All right. So if all hearts and minds are clear, again, I appreciate you all being with me as I do these videos, and I hope that you are finding small things to do that can increase your happiness, that can help you do self-care. So we will be back here tomorrow.